Hi, everybody. This is Joe Lample, the Joe behind Joe Gardener, and welcome to the Joe Gardener Show. If you are watching this on YouTube, we are transitioning all of our new episodes onto YouTube, and we'll continue to do the audio version as well. So if you're used to listening to it there and you want to stay there, that is fine. This is episode number 427, and it's the middle of the year, middle of the summer right now, exactly. And every year I do a kind of a catch-up check-in solo episode. And so this is that. It's right ahead of my monthly sabbatical in August. And I bring you up to speed on how the year has gone so far and what's ahead and what's going on right now. So that's what we're going to do today. And let's just start right off the bat. Early in the year, I am always busy with starting seeds for my seedling sale that I do with my daughter, Amy. And we just had our 8th year. And it was our best year ever. And we actually truly sold out of everything that we grew, which was about 3,000 seedlings, mostly tomatoes, maybe 2,000 tomato seedlings and about 1,000 peppers, and then some herbs too. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, no denying that, but we enjoy it. And it's a great activity to do together. And April is a really fun month for us because on the Saturdays, the first, second, and maybe third Saturday in the month, we're out there meeting with our customers and our friends and some students and fans of the show. And it's just a unique opportunity to get together face to face with people because that's such a rarity these days between all the online content that we create. To actually stand there face to face with somebody is pretty cool. So it was a great year. And next year, we're going to add native plants to the seedling sale with mostly tomatoes and peppers. We're going to really expand. And so that's going to be exciting too. So that was really January into April and right up to the end of it when I finally was able to start planting out my garden. And that's always the case. And I'm so busy getting all of everyone else's plants to their gardens. By the time I get to mine, I'm 2 or 3 weeks beyond where I'd like to be for planting, but that's okay. And the other thing that happens is we'll run down to like the last couple in inventory of a certain variety, and we'll be really completely out on the tables when people are looking for them. And they'll ask if we have any more of X. And invariably, I'll run back to the greenhouse where I've stashed away my own private selection that I wanted to plant in my garden. Before it got sold, I'd hold it off in the back, out of sight, out of view. But I'm a sucker for wanting people to have what they're looking for. So I'll go back and pick it from my stash. And usually then I end up not having it to grow myself. But that's okay. I'm just recounting what goes on in April. And that's one of the things that I kind of laugh at myself about. So that's that. And then after all the vegetable plants go into my garden, or at least get most of it planted out, then I'm busy with native plant seedlings. And that's something pretty cool. And it's combined with also a native plant rescue that I do with the Georgia Native Plant Society, where we have sanctioned rescues. So let's talk about that. Once a month, generally, except in the heat of the summer, the Plant Society has plant rescues throughout the state, and they're sanctioned by the property owners where the land is ultimately going to be developed. And they, thank goodness, are willing to work with us where we can come onto the property and remove plants that are destined to be destroyed, unfortunately. But we are able to dig them up with permission. And I've been able to really build up my personal inventory around here for the landscape with native plants that we found on some of these projects. And so I try to make a point every month to sign up for one of those events and get out there. And so here in Georgia, we have that opportunity. And maybe you have that too with maybe a state native plant society where you live. And if so, or if you don't know, check that out and get involved with your native plant society because they do so many good things, raising awareness, plant sales, plant rescues, education. It's incredible. And I love how Georgia's Native Plant Society works. And I have no doubt other states are just as good. So I encourage you to check it out because we all know how important it is to continue to add back native plants in light of climate change and habitat loss and pesticide use. We really need to do our part. So that's a big part of my life, and it has been for a few years, but it's only going to get more involved. But that has been going on from April through it'll go on through the end of the year, and then the next year starts over. But in addition to that, there are a lot of native seedlings that I'd like to have that I'm not able to find on these locations that I go to. So that's where I have my friends at Pinelands Nursery. In fact, Pinelands Direct is a nursery in New Jersey, and it's a native plant nursery. And they start everything. 95% of what they sell is started from seed, collected locally for the most part, and grown out. But a lot of what they grow is native to my area as well. So I'll look at their spreadsheet and I'll go online and I'll place a big order. And then I have all of these seedlings shipped to me that I can also add into my landscape. But a shout out to Tom Knizik, who runs that part of the company at Pinelands Direct, and Fran Chismar, his buddy. And by the way, they have a podcast that they do together called Native Plants Healthy Planet. And it's a hoot. The two of them together, they're pretty loose with their content. They have an outline, I can tell, but I don't think it's very scripted, but that's okay because they're good at what they do. But if you like gardening podcast and you want to try a new one, or if you already know about it, it's a fun one to listen to. But anyway, just a shout out to them, and thanks for the work that they do to make these native plant seedlings available. So if you want to check them out, pinelandsdirect.com is where you can go for that. And then propagation. Probably since early May, I've been propagating a lot of plants because as you get into the warmer months and new growth starts to come on, that's a time where you can begin taking cuttings from your property or from a friend's place or neighbor's place with permission, of course. And it's a great way to build up your plant inventory for free. And it's a lot of fun too. And you get more and more experience with every year or every season. And there's different times throughout the year that you can take cuttings, but you can begin early May is typically how it is for me. And so that's what I've been doing as well. And I'll continue to do that. And here we are right now into mid-July, which is an ideal time to take semi-hardwood cuttings where there's new growth coming from the old wood. And hydrangeas would be a great example of an easy plant to take cuttings from. But I'm just trying to take us through chronologically what's been going on in my year, just to kind of give you a recap and an update on state of the garden sort of information. So that's kind of a recap of where I've been from January until coming into summer. So here we are, as I said, mid-July, and it is hot. So let's talk about what's going on now with me and what I hear is going on with you around the country and beyond, actually. And the common denominator, the recurring theme that I'm getting is, again, overwhelm combined with this has been a weird year. And that's what I hear from people. Everybody's kind of saying, gosh, this has been the weirdest year. And that's because they've had extreme heat, extreme rain, extreme pest, extreme diseases, poor production. And so, yes, it's been that for me too. And it can lead to overwhelm. And I've done a whole podcast episode on Gardening Overwhelm, and we'll link to that. We'll put that in the notes here that you can check out. That was one of our most popular episodes, by the way. But we all deal with that. You know, as much as we love gardening, and I do, I don't know anybody that loves it more than me, but I know there's a lot of people that love it as much as me. And even so, just because of all the forces outside of our control, combined with all that we have to do during the peak growing season, it's just poured on top of us. And you hear that expression, the straw that breaks the camel's back. And, you know, in gardening, I'm sure there's a metaphor for that too, or some trigger that gets us to feel like, oh, I just can't go on anymore. Maybe it's either the pest or the diseases or the heat or the weeds or all of the above just really beating us down. But the way that I have managed to deal with that, because it's real, it really is real, is to compartmentalize what you want to do kind of before you get out there. So if you have a Saturday where you plan on spending it in the garden, but you don't have plans yet on what you're going to do, and you walk out there and everything hits you at once, truly that can be overwhelming at any day, at any time. But if you go out with a plan and you say, I'm going to do this today, and I'm only going to do this, and I'm not going to look over there, and I'm going to work through this section or this amount of time, and I'm going to call it a day, Now, that doesn't mean you can't continue to go on, but you can give your permission to say, this is the area I want to conquer today, or this is the project I want to do, and let that be it. And no, you're not going to get it all done beyond just that area, but it'll be there tomorrow. You know that, and I do too. But it does help you find a little peace in that and feel accomplished, because at the end point, you've done something and you can check it off and you've made progress. So for what it's worth, that works for me very well. And maybe you can apply that if you're feeling a little bit of that yourself. And also, additional food for thought. Just know that every year is different. There are no 2 years that are the same, back to back, never the same. And you're always going to have challenges. And, you know, if gardening were easy, everybody would be doing it. But you, like me, may like the challenge and may like to be stretched and challenged to learn more or figure out a new way or a more efficient way. But whatever it is, we work through it. But I'm going to come back to some of these specific things I said that create those challenges right now, and we'll talk about those just a little bit. But one thing I want to show you that has really helped me, and this may sound a little self-serving because I co-designed this, but I did it because I needed this and it didn't exist, and it has really made a difference. So this is gonna this is my ultimate gardening sheath right here. So this goes on my hip. I clip it on my belt, or you can run your belt through it. But what's unique about this and why this really makes my gardening life easier every time I go out in the garden is that there are 3 tools I always use every day. And this sheath was created to hold all 3 of those things at one time, because nothing like this has existed up until now. If it had, I would have bought it and not had to create this. But I'm glad I did. But my soil knife, this is really dirty because it's the real deal. This came off my hip a few minutes ago. My pruners, proof, that's soil right there coming out of it. And then my micro snips, and everyone gets used every day, along with a carabiner that I can strap something else onto or clip, a marking pen for making plant tags, and tags are right there too. So everything I've found that I needed every day and didn't have, it's frustrating. And that adds to the overwhelm when you already have enough to do to not have what you need in the moment. And then you have to stop what you're doing. You break that momentum. You have to go find it, and then you're back at it. And that's no good. So that's why that came about. And here's what it looks like brand new, right? So nice and clean, and this is how it comes if you get it. So I'm just showing you this because a lot of people, this was released last December. It was finally ready then, and we put it out for the December month, and ever since then, we've been offering these, and people have been buying them and loving it. And if you want to learn more, I'll just tell you, go to joegardner.com/UGS, and that stands for Ultimate Gardening Sheath. And you'll see the opportunity to order this or learn more, but just scroll down through that landing page because there's a lot of information there, and that will help you learn a lot about this. But take a look at it. I think you'll like it. It's a low profile, triple stack design, fits really well on your hip. You don't even know it's there. And if you don't wear a belt, that's okay, because you can clip it on your hip or you can run a belt through it. So I think we've thought of almost everything. I'm sure there's a few things that we will modify over time. But so far, with all the use I've had, many thousands, hundreds of hours, I can't think of anything yet new. But if you have one or get one and you find an idea that you want to share with me, please do that. Again, it's joegardner.com/UGS for Ultimate Gardening Sheath. All right, so let's go back to the challenges that we've had this year in the summertime, and one of them is the pest, or the critters, the insects, the 4-legged type, whatever. One of the things that a lot of us have been dealing with this year at an abnormal intensity, I think, are mosquitoes. Now, for some places it's bad anyway, but for me, this is a year for one, not being attracted to or attractive to mosquitoes. They tend to go elsewhere. I don't really get bothered by them, but this year has been different. Than they're coming after me too. And I did a podcast episode a few weeks ago with Dr. Doug Tallamy with his latest book, How Can I Help? And one of the things he talked about was mosquito control. and he offered a suggestion on making a mosquito bucket trap using a 5-gallon bucket. And I did a video on this, so we'll put the link to that in the notes here and you can watch how to make it. But it's very simple to do. 5-gallon bucket, get some straw or hay or grass clippings or leaves, a handful of that, throw it in there, fill the bucket up about 2/3 full, put a rescue stick in there in case something inadvertently gets in there that you don't want in there. Put a BT dunk in there, 6 for $10, easy to find at the hardware store. Put sort of a hardware cloth or screen over the top, again, for protection. And that will draw the mosquitoes that are in your area to that bucket, because everything the mosquito female wants to lay her eggs is right there in that bucket. The kind of the gnarly material that as it rots down that you put in there with the water is exactly what they want. And then you put it in a quiet, shady spot in your yard, and one bucket in a typical suburban backyard will draw in all the mosquitoes that are there already to that spot. And then just to make it easy, don't provide competition. So empty out any other standing water that you have. And it works really, really well. I've been using it now all summer and I've had great results with it. And so since I put the bucket in place, I haven't had the issues with the mosquitoes that I was referencing a minute ago. But a lot of people have replied to that video and concurred with their success in having it. And so give that a try if that's something that you're struggling with too. You might want to give that a go because it really does help. As for rain this summer, if you're in an area like me that's had a lot and now we haven't had any in a long time and it's super hot, that's the ebbs and flows of the season and you just kind of roll with it. But the rain, in moderation, it's great. We know that. But when it's too much, it really contributes to the promotion of disease. It just tends to really aggravate disease issues. So in a hot, humid area, add the rain to it and it just blows up on you. And all you can really do, because once you have a disease that makes its way into your garden, and they're very, very common, it comes in through the air, through animals, through humans, in the soil. There's a lot of ways that diseases get into your garden and onto your plants, and don't beat yourself up for it. It is just a fact of gardening. But once you get those, just trying to keep up with it the best you can by cutting out that foliage and not adding it to your compost pile. Because generally, although you could, your compost would have to get very hot for an extended period of time to kill off the pathogens. So just to be safe, I recommend that you dispose of it, throw it away in the trash, and let it go away from your garden. But there really aren't any fungicides that consumers can buy to cure diseases. Once they're there, and then all you can really do is manage them. So like me, I have to cut them out, hence my micro snips that are on my side, and try to keep up with it. And then it's a race to see what kind of productivity you can get out of that plant before it either succumbs to the disease or it grows through it, which can happen too. So don't give up on that plant just because it has septoria leaf spot or early blight or something like that. If you can cut it out and practice good sanitation habits, you may be able to grow through it, and time will tell, is all I can tell you there. And as far as heat is heat, and don't work in the middle of the day. So try to pick your times in the day if you have that luxury to work early in the morning or after you get home in the late afternoon, and avoid the middle of the day, of course. But even then, or if you are out in the middle of the day because that's when you have to garden or you don't mind the heat, still taking those precautions as I do. Growing up in Miami, Florida, I worship the sun as a stupid teenager, but we didn't know better then. And, now I'm paying the price with precancerous spots all over. And it just, we have to be careful these days. And so I wear, long sleeve wicking, I don't know what the fabric is called, but it has an SPF 50 factor in it. And you would think, gosh, you're wearing a long sleeve shirt in the middle of the summertime. But for those of you who do what I do, it really makes a difference in a positive way, because once you kind of sweat through into that fabric, you stay cool and it knocks the temperature down probably at least 10 degrees. As far as I can tell, I am comfortable, even when it's very hot, wearing long sleeves, more so than if I were out there in this t-shirt. I would be a lot hotter in this. And I know from experience. So those shirts are everywhere. Costco, online. We'll try to put some information in the notes so that you can have a place to start if you don't know. But that combined with a big hat, and sunglasses and sunscreen and gloves. And even I wear long pants too in the summertime, which sounds crazy, but that same lightweight material that is in your shirt can be in the pants too, and it really makes a difference. So that helps with the heat. So I recommend that you give that a try. As counterintuitive as that sounds, trust me on this. I'm a big fan of that kind of gear that I wear in the hottest of hot days. Also with your plants, if you are dealing with extreme temperatures and your plants are showing signs of stress, very normal, you can suspend shade cloth over the top. And an example of that would be over your tomato plants. Because once you get to around 90 degrees or a little bit warmer, the pollen starts to stick or it gets heavy or the pollen is killed off from the heat. But if you can buy 50% shade cloth, I mean, you can, but if you were to get some at 50% protection or 70% protection, you're still going to get light through there sufficient enough to provide the light that the plants need to photosynthesize. But it's going to be cooler under that shade cloth, and your plants will thank you for it. They'll do better. They won't look as sad. They won't wilt as much. They will continue to perform. Maybe the pollen won't die and other things. But don't wrap the shade cloth around the plant tightly or even semi-tightly. Like don't wrap it right around the cage if your plant is growing in a cage, because you need some air circulation between the shade cloth and the plant. And so I have found with my students in the Online Gardening Academy who have done this, such as in Texas and the Southwest, this has worked very well, but it didn't work as well when the shade cloth was wrapped around the plant, like around the cage. And when they suspended it over the plant and gave a few feet of separation, it really helped. And it knocked down the temperature about 7 degrees on average, but that can make all the difference in the world. So that's one way to maybe counteract some of the heat that you're dealing with for your plants while still allowing them to get the light that they need. And then you obviously get to enjoy the productivity from the plant by that simple fix. So you could give that a try too. And you can get shade cloth. We'll put some links in the show notes as well on that and what I use. All right. So there's one other thing I want to talk about before I leave this section, and that is pest, critters. Insects too, yes, that's always going to be an issue, but I'm pretty tolerant with them, and I let Mother Nature come in and kind of use natural controls that work very well. So we'll talk about that on another day with more detail about managing insects. And I've already done that a lot with prior podcasts, so you can check there. But what I wanted to tell you this time was, I've talked about my garden. If you've seen pictures of my garden or seen videos of me in my garden, you know that it's a large raised bed garden with 16 raised beds, and it only has a 4-foot split rail fence around it. And I get asked every day about how is that possible that you can do that with deer, because I have lots of deer on my property and around it every day, and they've never gone into my garden. And people can't get their heads around why that is. And I wasn't sure that was going to work for me either when I tried what I tried. And that was I put a 4-foot split rail fence around the configuration of my raised beds. And we'll include pictures so you can understand what I'm talking about as far as the configuration. But my thinking was at the time, by making it confusing for a deer, if I were a deer on the outside looking into my garden, even though it was only a 4-foot fence that I could walk over as a deer, we know they can jump much higher than that. Looking into the garden, there would be no safe place to land because of the beds being so close to the fence and the configuration. They were 90 degrees to each other and things like that. So it would be confusing for them, and they wouldn't feel safe in a landing place, or once they were in, how would they would get out quickly. And so that was my theory when I tried it 13 years ago, and it worked. I'd never had a deer in the garden until this week. I just got home from vacation. I'd gone out to my garden and I looked and I saw a lot of damage that just couldn't be a rabbit. It was higher up, like on the stalks of sunflowers, 3 feet up. That's not a rabbit. And then it had torn ends. Rabbits have sharp teeth. Deer don't have those sharp teeth like that. So that's how you tell between the height and the tear. I said, there's deer in here. And I thought it's because I left the gate open, which would make sense. But it wasn't that, because The first day back this week, I was sitting in my office, which looks out onto my garden, and I saw a deer walking by, which is not unusual, but this deer was stopping and looking into my garden a little too long. I'm used to them walking by, but they don't really linger. This one did. And then it looked poised to want to jump in. And I thought, oh no, that deer has been in my garden. And in fact, I saw deer poop on the pathway in the garden the morning before I saw this deer. So I knew I had a problem. So I watched the deer. I pulled my camera out, filmed, and it went around to the gate. I have 4 gates going into my garden, and it jumped over the gate. And the reason why it went to the gate to jump over is because that and the other 3 gates are the only way they can jump into the garden and have a clear landing spot, because they are on the main pathway axis. So there's nothing really for them to run into or jump into. And it's a 4-foot wide path, and they can easily leap over and have no obstacle to get in their way. Same thing with exiting, because I saw it happen going in. So I walked out to the garden with the deer still in it, and I scared it out. But it didn't just jump over from where it was standing. It went over to the gate, to the pathway clearance, and then jumped out over the gate. So I still stand by my configuration and the deterrence that it has for deer coming in, except for now I've got to just raise the obstacle area over the gate so they can't use it anymore to get in. And then I think I'll solve the problem. But we're going to talk about that in a video next week and give more detail and show some of that information. And we'll see. But if you've got a clever solution that works for you, that's not the typical things that we hear, I'd love to hear about it. So feel free to email me or comment online and Instagram. I'm at Joe Gardener, or email at heyjoe@joegardner.com, or comment in the YouTube video here. That would be great. If you're watching it versus listening, comment and let's talk about it. I would love to hear what you have to say. Okay, so that's all related to the topic of overwhelm. You know, lots getting thrown at us during the busiest time of year for active growth, and we have a lot on our plate. So it's okay that you feel overwhelmed or stressed, or like you took too much on, and you work through it. And next year is a new year, and so you can just readjust and correct and see how it goes. And because it's all ahead of us, it's going to be a better year next year than this year, right? Okay. So managing the vegetable garden, that's probably the biggest thing on my plate each day during the summertime. And along with the things that I've already mentioned, as I'm harvesting, and you know, it's not been the best year because of the challenges I've already mentioned, but as far as harvesting tomatoes and peppers, I love saving the seed because we use them for our plant sale. We use our seeds to grow the seedlings and sell them back out, and we know that we have good stock. But there's a lot of seeds that you can harvest from all the different things that you're growing, and not just the edibles, but the flowers too. And I hope that you too are growing flowers mixed in with your edibles, because when we started doing that a few years ago, it was a game changer as to not only the beauty, walking in and experiencing all the beauty of the flowers, but the life that it drew in through all the beneficial insects that hadn't been there in that amount of volume compared to when we started adding flowers. And saving the seeds from them as well. So now I'm overloaded with great seeds, and I've made accommodations for that and how I store them and keep them fresh. But that's going to keep me busy from now through late fall as the flowers mature and the seeds dry out. Anyway, that's part of managing the vegetable/flower garden, and I enjoy that part too. All right, so there's some other to-dos that we need to be talking about right now. If you are going to grow a fall vegetable garden, or you've never done it before and you think you'd like to try, let me tell you, it is the most forgiving time of the year for having a successful vegetable garden, because there are a lot of things that grow in the fall that don't like the summer, such as lettuce or leafy crops, or brassicas, you know, heading crops, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, all of those. And they taste better the more cold they are exposed to. So when they're kissed by frost, they get sweeter. And scientifically, they really do. But I encourage you to do that. And if you've never done it, please give it a try this time. But if you know what I'm talking about, you also know that this here in the middle of the summer is the time that we need to start those seeds. And it seems really crazy to be thinking about starting your cool season seedlings by seed in the middle dead of summer. But you need that ramp up time. You need those seeds to germinate and mature to the point that they're large enough and hardy enough to go into the garden in late summer or early September. So that's 6 weeks from now, which is exactly about the time that you need to go ahead and get those seedlings to the point that they are ready to go in the garden. So you got to do it. And let's face it, there aren't a lot of seedlings available for sale in the nurseries or box stores for fall crops. At least where I am in Atlanta, Georgia, I just don't see much of that going on in the fall because most people aren't thinking about a fall garden, but they should be because there's just so many great edibles, as I just mentioned, that you can't get any other time of year other than maybe early spring, which is for me a time where you can do that also. So with that, if you've never done this before or you'd like to have a good review, I got two things I want to tell you about. And the first one is a webinar coming up on July 30th. So hopefully you're listening to this before then or watching this before then. And if you want to really get all the down and dirty about how to prepare for a fall vegetable garden, what to grow, when to grow it, how to time your seedlings and your transplanting and so much more, we've got a webinar and it's $20 to enroll, and you get a great workbook that has tons of information in it that you can refer to over and over, and a replay link to watch it for 30 days after the live date, which is the 30th of July, which is a Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern time. And I think you would really enjoy that. So if this sounds interesting to you, check it out. And you can do that at joegardner.com/fall-veg. Again, that's joegardner.com/fall-veg. No spaces there. And you can learn more and enroll for the webinar. Again, that's July 30th at 12 noon Eastern time. Also, you can get our fall garden edibles checklist. This is a free checklist on what to plant this fall, including my top picks and timely tips. And it's a really nice free download. And all you need to do is just go to joegardner.com/fall-garden. And again, that's all one word, no spaces, joegardner.com/fall-garden. And just tell us where you want us to send the download, and you'll have it. And so that's a really handy thing to have reference for as you get ready to plant out and grow your fall garden. Okay, one more thing to do on the list. This also sounds counterintuitive, but it's related to what I just talked about. But if you are going to grow garlic this year, if that's on your list or it's something you always do, in my case, there was a time, and I learned the hard way, that I never thought to order my garlic in advance of when it was time to plant them. So for me, I plant them in November. And so I would order them maybe late October, but they were always sold out. At least the varieties that I always wanted, the best varieties were long ago sold out. And, for good reason. Smart people know that too, and they order well in advance. The timing to do that is right now. Yes, again, middle of the summer, August maybe, but no later, please, because the best ones are gone. And especially if they're certified organic garlic, that goes first. And don't miss out. And so I've fortunately formed the habit of getting my garlic ordered, and I've already done that for this year. And I got all my favorite varieties, hard neck and soft neck. I won't go into any more details about garlic because I've got podcasts dedicated to that. We'll link to also, and you can learn a lot and watch some videos on that too. But order it if you have it. And if it's on your list, do not wait close to planting time because the one varieties that you want to get won't be available. Trust me on that. I've learned the hard way. Okay, so let's talk about what's ahead. For me, I have my sabbatical coming up. I mentioned that every August I take the month off simply because I'm so overwhelmed with the busyness of the year up to that point, with not only my own garden and the acreage I've got to manage, but then working with my students and all of you with questions. And I try to help as many people as I can. But by the time I get to August, there's some projects that I just haven't been able to get to. And the only way that I can get to it is to carve out that time and go offline, go dark, go off grid and really get at it. So that's what I've been doing now for 5 or 6 years. And it's been a game changer because when I come back in the fall and September, I am refreshed, recharged, ready to go. But I stay busy the entire month. And so here's what I'm going to be doing related to what relates to you that I'll be sharing with you through recording and doing videos and showing you what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and the progress of it. I am going to work on my nursery area just on the north side of my greenhouse. So if you've seen my greenhouse in videos or anywhere, you've got an orientation of that. And you've probably seen, we've done videos from my nursery area, which is simply carport material that you can get at Harbor Freight or on Amazon. It's just the steel poles and a angled top and then the shade cloth I put over the top. But it's 10 feet by 20 feet. And underneath it, I have an area to work, a place to put my plants that don't want to be in full sun and my seedlings and a semi protected area from the sun and from critters because I put livestock panel around it to keep the big guys out. And it's been great, but I need to refine it. Everything's been on the ground. I can make it much more efficient. And that's what I'm going to be doing. And I'll document that and I'll show you. I'm very excited about that. And I think that's the biggest priority I have because once I redo that area, I will have so much more room to put in new seedlings and propagation, cuttings, seed trays, plant rescues, you name it. I'll triple the working space and you'll see that at least that much. So that's the big project for August. Then coming into the fall, two big things. I'm going to say the biggest thing for last. First is redoing my compost area. Again, all of these things I'm talking to you about, they're out there in video or pictures or social media posts. And hopefully you know what I'm talking about. And we'll try to marry in some pictures into this conversation for the YouTube version and in the show notes as well, so you can see this. But they are pallets. They have untreated hardwood pallets that I love using for composting bins because they're free. They last on average about 5 years from the time that you put them together, which only takes a few minutes. So I've got 3 bins. Each bin has 3 bays. So that's 9 areas to put compost and they're full, but they're ready to be replaced. And this time I'm going to upgrade with not an expensive upgrade, but you'll see. I'm going to not give you more detail yet so you can kind of see what I'm talking about when I show you. And then you'll get it. But it's ready for an update or an upgrade or both. And I will be using all of that compost for this next thing that I'm about to tell you. And this is the big thing. And that is my raised bed garden that you've seen. It's 13 years old, 13 and a half by the time we get to into this year. And the wood is untreated 6x6 timbers, cedar. And they have been beautiful. They performed really, really well. They're still performing really, really well. But between the humidity, the moisture, I think the termites, they're degrading. They're showing me that they are ready for an upgrade too. This is not something I want to do. This is not something I'm looking forward to doing, but this is something I need to do. So I'm going to start changing out the beds. And I'm going to show you the entire process from the planning, the thought process. What soil am I going to use? Am I going to keep the same soil in the beds? Am I going to change it out? If so, what am I going to use if I change it out? Wood am I going to use? Or is it going to be wood? Is it something else? Or is it a hybrid of wood and something else? What are the pathways going to be? Are they still going to be hardwood mulch or am I going to change that too? So I have a lot of decisions to make, but I think it will be fun to include you in on this through documenting the entire process. And I see the timeline of this happening from November through March, maybe early April. And I'll take a little bit at a time. I'm not going to replace all the beds at one time because that's too massive of a project. And it's just me and a little bit of help as it comes. And yeah, so there's that. Not sure I'm looking forward to that, but I think I'll be glad when it's over. And I think it'll be kind of fun to involve you and get your input too. So I'll be sharing all of that with you starting in November if I stay on track with the plans. Okay, I think that's going to wrap it up for what I wanted to share with you today. If you want to go back and re-listen to this or watch this, of course, you know that you can. And if you're listening to this, we are on every podcast player out there. And you know that by now because you're listening from one of them. And if you're not subscribed already, please do so that we'll be in your playlist or you'll get notified if you're watching this. You'll get a new notification. We have our next episode on YouTube and you can watch that. But be sure to check the notes, whether you're watching it in YouTube or you're listening. Go to joegardener.com, look for the podcast tab, and then this episode is number 427. But with every show, we rewrite the conversation that you're listening to through Brendan O'Reilly. He writes a detailed update, so you can get a nice recap, and we include a lot of pictures to illustrate what I'm talking about that you may not be able to see. If you're just listening, you can go back and watch it. And in this video, hopefully we'll be able to marry in pictures too. So that will go along in real time with what I'm talking about. But in all cases, the show notes are a nice reference for related information and links that you might want to check out as well. I'm on Instagram during the week, mostly at Joe Gardener. And the YouTube channels, of course, are Joe Gardener TV for DIY, how to, and podcast episodes now, brand new. And then GGW TV is the other YouTube channel, and that is for my television series on PBS, Growing a Greener World. Over 200 episodes, and we have uploaded every episode we've ever done over 12 years. And those are there that you can binge watch to your heart's content for free anytime you have an itch to watch some good organic gardening and environmental stewardship television episodes. Those are all right there. Okay, last announcement, and that is our next big international trip is coming up in January. It is to the Galapagos Islands and to the Amazon rainforest, January 9th through the 19th, 2026. It's going to be amazing. Great company. A lot of the guests that come, and we'll probably be able to accommodate about 27 people total. Most of them are gardeners, or at least half of them are, because a lot of them are bringing spouses, but not everybody has a companion. But anyway, it's good people. It's good fellowship. We have a lot of laughs, a lot of good time, good food, good wine, great opportunities to see places you will never see again, probably. And it's very well done through Earthbound Expedition. So that's all I'll say for now. You can learn more by going to joegardener.com/rainforest. That's going to be the link that's going to take you right to the information page from Earthbound, and you can get all the details and register there too. Sign up. This trip will sell out fast. They always do, but this one, because it's a smaller group, will sell out faster. And this is kind of a really bucket list place to go. So if that sounds good to you, check it out. And I hope you will. And I hope that I'll see you on the trip too. So with that, we'll wrap it up. And as we do, I want to just say thanks to Amy Prentice, Brendan O'Reilly, and Christine LaFond. They are my A-team that helped me so much during the week, getting all of this together and ready to go on air through YouTube into our podcast app. It's a lot of work, and they do a great job. So thank you all. And thank you for listening or watching. If you're brand new, welcome. If you're a longtime listener, I really appreciate that. And if you like watching it, and this is a new experience because it is new for us putting it onto YouTube, we plan on doing this not only with all the new episodes going forward, but we're going to go into our back catalog of about 100 episodes that I started recording through Zoom that we've never done anything with, knowing that someday maybe we would add those to YouTube. And so now we're curating. Now we are curating. Now we're going back through the old back catalog and picking the ones that we want to put onto YouTube and sharing those with you as we can. So some good episodes. Some of our most popular ones we'll put onto YouTube as well. So look out for that. Whether you're listening or watching, my goal with every episode is to help you take the guesswork out of gardening by teaching you the why-do behind the how-to, so that you can become a better, smarter, more confident gardener. I'll be back here again next week for another episode of the Joe Gardener Show, and I look forward to having you join me for that. Until then, have a great week, and I'll see you here again soon. Take care, everybody.